Hi everybody, welcome to Jenkins Boat Works. I am Chuck Jenkins. In this video, we're going to continue working on our Yukon racing kayak. This episode is going to be about putting in the bulkheads. You can see one here. We have a total of 4 in this boat. The boat's 18 feet long, so we kind of wanted to create some compartments, and it's tricky work. So we're glad you're here. I fussed and fought with it all weekend, but I had great success at the end, so we're going to share that with you. Most of you know that I'm building this boat for my buddy who's going to use it in the MR340 later this summer. That's a river race down the Missouri River from Kansas City to St. Charles, Missouri, so all the way across the state. He is itching to get in the water and start practicing, and we are itching to be done with it. So we're glad you're here. There's a whole series in this build project, some 20 episodes. We'll link the playlist at the end of the video and in the video description. If you happen to be new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you subscribe, click the little bell. You'll get update notifications when the next video comes out. All right, we're just going to jump in. I'll show you how we got these bulkheads fitted. At a point in the winter, it never felt like we'd ever have warmth, green grass, or anything ever again, but here we are. And it's so nice tonight that I've even opened up the door, the garage door, here in the shop. There's the foam sound that has been put on hold. And I just took the hull of the kayak off of the forms. We've got the deck pretty much ready to go. And I'm starting to think about bulkheads. And I'm actually thinking to put one in front of the cockpit, 2 feet forward of that, so just behind the forward hatch. But then I'm also thinking to put one about maybe, 2 feet back from the front. And it really won't add much weight because you can see here, that's about 2 feet. And we've got, the form for it. We know what shape it should be. So if I take that off of there and trace out a little piece of plywood, I should be able to make a forward bulkhead. That will create a little bit of airspace and buoyancy in the front. And, if we have just wide open from 2 feet in front of the cockpit, like here, and then all the way forward, you could lose stuff up in there, and it's really not usable space. And then I'm thinking to put one right back here behind the cockpit or behind the coaming and in front of this after hatch. And I'm kind of having the same thought that I might put another one maybe back in here somewhere. You couldn't reach your arm in really much past, say, here. Maybe if we put one here, it shouldn't add a lot of weight. It will create that positive flotation. I was looking at this last night. I've got the hull here and the deck next to it. And I'm looking at some of my forms. I'm kind of taking apart the building jig. I think I'm going to try to use some of these forms as, well, not them exactly, but at least patterns to make my bulkheads. This one here would be at station 40, and you can see that I've marked in here where those stations are, just so I have an idea. So I'm thinking one at 40, one at in between 70 and 60, so 65. There, that'd be immediately in front of the cockpit, and then 2 more going in the back. Not quite sure what to make my bulkheads out of, but I did find this 1x piece of pine that I've just had in the shop. And it's big enough and wide enough that I could make my bulkheads out of it. So this would be our forward one at 40, and that fits on there pretty good. And part of the reason I'm thinking about using solid wood like this as opposed to plywood, yes, it might be a little bit heavier, but if I do need to drill through the hull into the bulkhead to help us get the shape right, this should allow me to screw into it and hold the fastenings. This next one, we want our bulkhead at about 65. Well, there is no frame for 65. It's either 60 or 70. So 60 is laying on top of 70. And you can see that they're pretty similar. So I'm thinking I'm going to draw out 70 and then kind of approximate half of the distances between what 60 and 70 looks like. And then we got one for 120, which is will be behind the cockpit, and then this is the aftermost one. And let's see, that would be the one at 180. So that's only about 3 sections back from the very back end of the boat. This might be a little thick, and I certainly can run it through the planer and thin it down a little bit to save some weight. But I do think I'm going to draw them out and cut them and see how they might fit in here. So one, we're going to draw out 70, but we're going to probably cut it back just a little bit. In fact, I think what I could do is line up those reference marks on there like that, and then I should be able to take about halfway in here. This white pine really is not very heavy, but I ran these through the thickness planer, basically getting them half as thick at 3/8 of an inch. This one here is the forwardmost, and we'll go at 40 inches, which is about equivalent with this attachment point. So it's about 40 inches back from the front, and it will be then just a foot, maybe 10 inches forward of this hatch. I do have that hole in it for the wire to run through for the lights. And that one's pretty well fitted. We'll just have to put it in there. But before I do that, I want to make sure I got the rest of them. So now, this one is the one that's forward of the cockpit. And I've just about got it fitted. It also needs to go right about where these attachment points are. And that'll set it back maybe 5 inches or so back from the hatch, but then also 2 feet forward of the cockpit. So there it is up in there. You can see that I've made kind of little handles on there with tape so that I can kind of jockey it around to try to get it fitted. We are really close to that being where I want it. Now, the only other thing is I got to make sure I got a hole. I think I already drilled a hole in it so that my wires from the back here can get up there. And I think I'm going to need to run the wire through there before I place it, because I don't know if I'd be able to reach the 2 feet up through here to string that wire through there once it's in there. So just trying to think of every little thing. And we've got this bulkhead back here. And this will actually be a good one to kind of show how I get them fitted. You get a rough piece cut, and then what you can do is take a pencil and just lay it on the surface and draw your line, and then you can sand it or either cut it with the bandsaw, whatever you need to try to get it exactly fitted in there. Now this one I'm happy with, and we'll put some thickened epoxy in there and get that sealed up. There is one more bulkhead, but we put it in when we put the deck down back here on the back, and it is right where those 2 bronze screws are. Tricky. Getting those fitted in there is you just kind of got to keep playing with them. Just about good with that one forward there, but like I said, I got to make sure I can run a wire through it. And I may kind of beat that into place with a 2x2 or something just to get it straight and lodged in there, and then we'll use thickened epoxy and get it sealed in there. I'll pull that out of there just so you kind of see my little tape setup that I've got on it. So I just made a little handle So when I'm pushing it up in there, and I put some on the other side too, so once I get it forward, then I can reach through the hatch there and kind of jockey it around. So pretty close, pretty close. We scratched up some of the area around the bulkhead, so when we put our thickened epoxy in there, it'll stick. And we did it for the one going up here 2 feet in front of the cockpit, and the one that goes just forward of the hatch. So I think, oh, that one fell on the floor. I think we're ready to try to install these. I got a Ziploc bag, and I just put it inside this Total Boat mixing cup, the 1 quart one. And then I'm just gonna mix my epoxy right in here and thicken it, because if I mix it in something else and thicken it and then try to put it in the bag, it's a real pain. This is gonna be a little difficult to mix, but it'll be good, it'll be okay. I don't know about this. It's hard to mix up this way. The bags want to go all over the place. I put in a bunch of the Total Boat silica, and then I put in some sawdust too to color it up. I don't want it just all white in there. Okay, so here's the trick now. We'll just try to take this off of here. Now I've got all my thickened epoxy in this bag. I kind of push it all down towards the bottom. And there's quite a bit in there. I suppose I can kind of work it like that. Now I'm gonna try to get it away from this corner right here, and I'm gonna cut that corner just a little bit, and then I can squeeze it out in a bead, I hope. Okay, here we go. I got a little hole cut in there. Hope it's not too big. Uh-oh. Well, that was messed up. As you can see, this was a dang mess. And this was the easy one. I still had to do the ones up in the front where I couldn't hardly reach them. It all worked out. I definitely want to try to smooth this out a little bit. It's like there's way too much right there. Kind of get that to where it looks better. A stir stick with the edge cut off flat turned out to be a much better smoothing tool, and I was able to clean it off and get rid of the excess. Up to here. Okay. That's it. If you like the video, remember to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.